Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jeremiah Walker with Imaginet Resources. Thank you for attending. We are going to be starting here shortly. Give everybody a few more minutes to join in. Thank you for your time again, like we said. My name is Jeremiah Walker. I will be your host today. And if you're here looking for how to plan your first Microsoft Live event, then you're in the right place. If not, please feel free to join in, and hopefully you learned something about planning for your new events today. Like we said, we'll give it 1 or 2 minutes to see if everyone can join in, and then we will go from there. I do have a couple of teammates that will be joining us and are providing background support for the team, so we'll make sure to introduce those team members that'll be here guiding you. We do have a live event question and answer panel up. If there is anything you need support with from a technical standpoint, audio, visual, or if you have any questions about the material that we're going to be covering today. We do have a moderated Q&A, so please don't hesitate to ask any question that you might find relevant. We're here to support you. Again, this is how to plan your first live event, so we're assuming most of the audience does not have a lot of experience with delivering live events, and that's what we're hoping to coach and provide some useful support and scenarios for today. And we're right at 12:02, so I think from the Imaginet team, we'll go ahead and move into the program. We do want to be very respectful of everyone's time today. Again, if there are any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to leverage the chat functionality for question and answers and any other support that we may be able to provide you and your team. Again, this is the planning and delivering your first Microsoft Live event powered through Teams. We are the Imaginet Professional Services Corporation. Like I said, my name is Jeremiah Walker, and I am the Principal Consultant for our Business Productivity Platform practice here at Imaginet. I do have a couple team members joining me that are doing front office support as well as back-end production support, and we'll take some time to get to know all of them. I am the practice lead as well as the principal consultant, and I have experience with the Office 365 solution going back to when it was BPOS, and then predating that even, I have a lot of experience with SharePoint and its iterations going back to the WSS 3.0 instance. We have really ridden the wave of collaboration and evolution of the SharePoint framework in regards to document management, intranet, and now with this latest instance of the service that Teams provides, powered by that SharePoint backend, we feel we're positioned right now at this point in time in history with virtual and remote work becoming so much of the norm. We feel we're at a very advantageous point to really leverage Teams and the Office 365 platform to help provide that common experience for you and your teams, whether it's sharing of news, virtual happy hours, water cooler events, or what is the latest response to the COVID safety requirements. We feel live events are a way to help communicate, collaborate, and really force that sense of community within our organizations, even when we're remote with each other at this point in time. With that, I'm going to introduce my team. So I will be providing the role of the host, and then I will turn it over to a couple of super talented teammates that will help provide the guidance for you as the presenter on what to do. So we'll be looking at Mercy Ann, and we'll meet Tyler today. And not to be overlooked, like I said, we do have some behind the scenes technical guru magic going on that's making everything that you're seeing live on your screen work seamlessly. And our backend producers are Nidhi and Jesse, and they are all members of the Imaginet team. And we all work very remotely here to support all of our customers. So just a couple of items to address here. Like we said, we do have the Q&A up, so if you have any issues, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you have not noticed yet, everybody did join in view-only mode, which is a configurable option for Microsoft Teams live events. Everybody's microphone and cameras are disabled right now to respect bandwidth and make sure everybody has a very seamless experience. Again, if you have any questions, whether related to the topic material, AV issues, please leverage the chat question. And one other note, if you're multitasking, again, virtual world, everybody's trying to accomplish more with less. Mercy and the team will provide a full recording of this to all attendees at the end of the demonstration. So goals for today. like we said, we want to talk about who we are as Imaginet and give you some background on what services and offerings we can provide to you. But we don't want to waste a lot of time with the sales fluff. Like we said, all of that will be delivered to you at the end of the session. But what we want to really get into is how to define the hosting of a live event, right? What are the requirements from you and your team, not just from a technical standpoint, but from a planning standpoint, right? What effort goes into presenting one of these events to keep your end users engaged for whatever period of time? Then we'll throw it over to Mercy and we'll take a look at the key features and tips that Mercy and the team identify when they are planning this type of event. Again, a lot of background magic takes place to present what you see on the screen. And then we'll get a little more technical. We'll jump in with Tyler and we'll take a look at some of the broadcasting capabilities, the audio requirements, and what has to happen to produce this seamless event. And last but not least, everybody's favorite, we'll turn it over into an open forum kind of Q&A. Jesse will step in and provide that moderation, and then Mercy and the team will kind of roundtable collaboratively be able to answer any questions that you may have. With that, we'll transition into the meat of the slide. Again, if you have any questions, if we're going too fast, too slow, any audio visual issues, please don't hesitate to put that into the live event Q&A. So a little background about Imaginet. I told you a little bit about us as individual teams, but like we said, everybody on this call today is an Imaginet full-time employee, which is something that I think really is significant from a professional services standpoint. Everybody at Imaginet is what we call an Imaginet Blue Shirt. They are full-time employees and part of our team. So what we do is we provide services to a lot of North American customers. We were founded in 1997 in Winnipeg, Manitoba. At some point, our founders decided to venture into the wild, wild west that is Texas and found our office here in Dallas-Fort Worth, where I am currently located. So we are a 19-time Microsoft Gold partner. We do have our main tenants that we do like to focus on. Even though we specialize within the Microsoft stack, what we've identified is through the cloud solution and custom application development process, that's a pretty broad stroke to say the Microsoft stack. So Imaginet as a consulting firm has identified the three main tenets that we like to focus on. These are the pillars of our organization. This is where we really try to deep dive and be those subject matter experts in. And we've narrowed these three things down into what we call Microsoft 365 consulting, custom application development, and then BI and data analytics. Again, everything in that 365 stack would be SharePoint, Power Apps, Power Automate, Teams, workflows, and then custom app is for those more unique type of business process requirements and solutions that we would really create and build and develop and design a targeted solution specific for your organization and those business cases. And then the real highlight of it all is the BI and data analytics, right? The actionable data. So we create all of these solutions to collect information, automate processes. Now, how do we react and how do we become more strategic about it? That's where we feel our data analytics and business intelligence teams come into play. Again, all of this is provided by full-time Imaginet employees, and we have the ability with our geographic structure and the way we deliver our projects to really provide a lot of support and guidance to very large organizations with a very lean, agile, and efficient team. And transitioning into that, I'm very proud to say here are some of the customers that Imaginet has in flight or has worked in the past, right, to really provide value to their organization. So like we said, we have the ability to deliver these services for very large scale organizations with a very lean team by leveraging our expertise in not only agile project management, but professional development of services in a collaborative environment. Next, we're going to transition over into what's required to host a Microsoft Live Teams event. So getting a little more technical here, again, if you have any questions or any concerns right now, please don't hesitate to leverage the chat. So what is required to leverage Teams for hosting our live events? What traditionally used to be called webinars, right? What we're looking at now is leveraging Teams as that single application, right, that provides our guidance for how do we collaborate internally and externally and also share news with people on the internet. So what we want to take a look is understand that These requirements might not work for you and your organization at this point in time, but again, we're here to talk about what is required for planning. So what we're hoping to do from an Imaginet perspective is, again, pull back some of those layers, right? Show you what's required on the back end to be able to meet your ultimate business objective. And again, who's capable, who's not. What we want to do is provide any guidance and support. So if you have any questions specific to licensing or requirements, please don't hesitate to reach out to us now in the chat. And also, as reference, Jesse's going to provide a link to the Microsoft 365 page in the Q&A that will provide high-level license details and what are the requirements. So on the screen is what is required, but we will provide this to you in addition as well. So it does require some level of licensing, right? For the enterprise, we're looking at those E1, E3, E5 SKUs. The exception to this is that guest users can present without a license. Again, really promoting that virtual workspace where we kind of tear down those silos within our organization of internal and external and allowing that cloud solution to provide the platform for us to communicate very dynamically. You do have to be licensed for Teams, so this is something that your Office 365 administrator could configure for you. It should be available if any of these licenses are applied to your Microsoft account. One caveat here that Mercy and the team will really try to elaborate on, and we'll be leveraging it for our solution as well. Again, helping you how to plan for your event. So what we'll take a look at is the licensing requirements to take the recording of this live event and then leverage the Microsoft Stream application to provide that streaming service for you, for your content, for your customers and internal end users. So now we're going to take a look at some features and some organizer tips. And for this section, we're going to leverage the transition within Microsoft Teams. So you're going to see Jeremiah start presenting, and I'm going to turn it over to my teammate, Mercy. And Mercy's going to take over from her planning for maybe even this event or any future events. What are some of those tips and tricks that she would recommend, not just to the host, but to the organization, the planning, the communication, and the structure of it. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mercy. Mercy, you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Jeremiah. Just give me 1 second and just let me know when you can see that.
I think we're seeing you live now, Mercy.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Jeremiah. Before we jump into the features and tips, let's first talk about the capabilities of hosting live events in Microsoft Teams if you have it enabled in your organization. Microsoft Teams announced the live event feature in 2019, which allows people in your organization to broadcast video and meeting content to large audiences, both internally and publicly. You can support up to 20,000 attendees, have up to 250 presenters and producers in one event, host 50 events simultaneously across a tenant, and have an event duration of 16 hours per broadcast. Now, this is all really impressive to have at your fingertips, but it's also important to know when to host a live event versus a regular virtual meeting. So when it comes to a live event, you would typically attend in person in an auditorium, theater, or a conference room with a large presentation screen. You'll often have a designated host and speakers or a panel to present the prepared topic. And as an audience member, you're there to digest the information. You're not expected to speak or present, but questions are welcomed. Now, when you're in a regular virtual meeting like this one in Teams, all participants are included in the discussion as if you were in one room. A meeting should be stimulating and encourage participants to chime in, brainstorm, and to provide feedback and updates. Hence why microphones, cameras, and screen share are enabled for everyone. Now, this view is very similar to yours. Teams Live Events tries to mimic the in-person event experience with added features to stay secure online. You'll notice your microphones and cameras are disabled. This is the first step to ensure your audience stays an audience in view-only mode. And the audience can still interact with the presenters and other attendees in the chat. It's important to set up your event this way rather than setting it up as a Teams meeting to enhance the attendee experience, to make the event organizer's job way easier without having to remind everyone to mute and disable their cameras, and to prevent any Zoom bombings or hecklers or any unplanned audience disruptions. Having this ability in Teams to launch live events is a way to eliminate a need to pay for third-party webinar tools. So how does live events work? First, we'll talk about the importance of assigning roles when launching a live event. For example, it's difficult for me, the speaker, to monitor the chat at the same time and cue the next speaker while I'm speaking. So number one, the event organizer schedules the event and assigns event permissions to the users. They're also in charge of the overall event management. This means coming up with a game plan, assigning roles, establishing a theme and timeline, developing promotional items, and many other things that happen behind the scenes to make the event happen. Next is the producer, who is Nidhi. She is the conductor of an orchestra. She controls when the event should go live, whose video and presentation you see, and cues the next speaker. The producer controls the flow of the event. We also have a chat moderator, who is Jesse. He can see your chat responses as they come in. He can answer them while the presentation is going on and publish responses to the chat for everyone to see. And lastly, the speakers, Jeremiah, me, and Tyler, who utilize voice, video, and presentation content. It's a good idea to have multiple speakers, especially for longer events, to keep the audience interested and engaged. You may also need to assign a host, which we've given to Jeremiah, who is a good bridge for the overall event from start to finish. Now, depending on the size and type of your event, you can have multiple people in each role. So to set up a live event, you do that directly in your Teams calendar. When you click on live event, you can fill in the fields as you would with any meeting invite. On the right, you'll add people who will help you run the event. Here I've assigned Nidhi as a producer. And after you click next, you have a few options to set up for either people and groups specified in your organization, to everyone organization-wide, or to the public like we have set up for this event. Scrolling down, you'll be given several options available in Teams. You can set up the recording to automatically start when the producer chooses to go live. That way you won't forget when you are in a regular Teams meeting. You can also specify who can access the MP4 recording. You can turn on live captionings and translations, export a CSV engagement report to show who attended, their email, when they joined and when they left, and set up the Q&A like we have here. You have to be sure to enable the Q&A, otherwise attendees cannot access the chat. And if these options aren't available to you, you may need to reach out to your admin to discuss event policies. So once you've scheduled the meeting, it will now live in your calendar. The presenters and producers can join or access the chat at any time. To invite people in your organization or to the public event, don't forward this event, but instead send them another calendar invite with a Get Attendee link. And it's also important to note that an attendee can access the event at any time with the link, but they won't see anything until the producer decides to go live. So just be cautious of what you put in the chat box before the event. Now, after your live event is done, the resources will be available for you to download immediately in the Teams calendar invite. So just some views of what we see and what you see. This is the attendee view. You can post a message in the chat and Teams will notify us. Jesse can moderate the message before publishing it for everyone to see. And this is just a good way to filter any unsavory comments that may take away from the main topic. This is the producer view. This is what Nidhi can see and select between different presenters and meeting content in the dock at the bottom here. She can also see the number of attendees, the network status, health of the event, the public Q&A that attendees have access to, shared notes that everyone in the event team can see and access, a private chat that the event team can communicate while the event is going on, and also see who is in the event as well as any other settings like turning on live captionings for everyone. There's a whole bunch of different settings that NIDHI can manipulate and access while the event is going on. And now this is the presenter view, a much more simplified view compared to the producers, so that we can focus on the content. But we still have access to the live Q&A, the internal chat, and the attendees, and all the other options in the little 3 dots here. So now that you have a basic understanding of how to set up a live event in Teams, we can now talk about the different scenarios where you may host a live event versus scheduling a regular meeting or sending a company email or posting a website article. So for internal event scenarios, you can host organization-wide announcements. At Imaginet, we host quarterly town halls with all Imaginet staff where each department lead provides an update. Another example is where an executive director can also update everyone regarding COVID-19 policies and when to expect to go back to work. Group and team updates, like a quarterly sales presentation to a specific group if there's sensitive information that doesn't require everyone to attend. Service and product launches, like internal announcements regarding a new offering before it goes to public. This is a good way to build strength internally and get everyone on board. Training sessions, so doing step-by-step presentations on how to use a marketing software or demonstrate proper machine handling. You can also go over policies and procedures when creating a new project site. Any of these training sessions can be recorded and can easily be accessed by staff in your intranet for reference in the future. This is great for HR as well, for any onboarding or orientations, like a presentation about the organization for new hires. HR can host sessions on HR policies like compensation, benefits, employee conduct, or regulations for compliance, safety, and health, as well as any important policy changes and reminders. And lastly, social events. Your social committee can host a viewing party at lunch, a virtual concert, or cooking and fitness classes to keep your staff connected online. For public event scenarios, you can host updates and announcements like a shareholder update, volunteer or donor recognition event, or an announcer of a new chief officer or a new facility. An annual conference, such as a multi-day conference with several sessions happening simultaneously. A single webcast, such as this one with presenters. It can either be a keynote or a panel. Software demo, so a short 15-minute demo to give your audience a glimpse of what they can do. Press conference where you can invite media to attend and they can pose their questions in the chat, as well as facility tours. With the majority of people staying home, this is a great opportunity to tour a new renovated space, to do guided tours around a museum or a zoo, or a researcher to showcase their lab. There are many other scenarios that I haven't listed here, but with the built-in live event feature in Teams, you can spend less time figuring out the technology and get more creative with moving your in-person events and processes to online. So hopefully you have a better sense of how you can utilize live events within your organization. Lastly, I have some quick tips that I've learned running events for several years and the challenges that come with virtual events. So number one, test, test, test. I cannot stress this enough, especially for your first live event. Test the software yourself, test with a trusted group and assign different roles. Do a test run from beginning to end before you go live. Test your emails, the links, the registration process, everything. Give yourself time to plan as well. Get your thoughts and questions on paper and give that content time to breathe. You may be immersed in planning, so giving yourself a day to not think about it and then come back with a fresh mind. Also think of some contingency plans as well if things don't go as planned. Registration tool. I hope that Teams builds registration in the future, but in the meantime, take a look at some registration tools to get your audiences signed up. Ask someone outside of your organization or outside of the event team to help test the live event and attend as a participant. You can even ask a friend or a family member. Consult with other organizations and community threads. If you're part of a chamber of commerce or have trusted partners, it's great to reach out to get outside perspectives and see what they're doing. Run through the process as an attendee. As an organizer, you can get stuck with understanding schedules and project management, but it's also important to run through the entire registration and live event process to find ways to improve the audience experience. And tip number 7, don't forget about the post-event process. Try to get as much feedback as you can to improve the next event, and don't forget to follow up with any recordings or calls to actions that you may have mentioned. Microsoft has a great virtual event playbook that Jesse can post in the chat, but it is quite lengthy. Sometimes you just need a quick one-pager, which we've created here to help you check off all the boxes to launch your live event. It's free, it's interactive, and includes much of what I've highlighted here and more. Jesse can paste the link in the chat for the free download link, and it will also be emailed to you. And with that, that's the end of my presentation. I can now pass it off to Tyler.
Thanks, Marcy. Just gonna share out my PowerPoint here. Okay, so everyone should be able to see this now. So I just want to talk a little bit more towards the technical capabilities of what to expect from a live event within Teams, and also some of the solutions we use to get around those issues. So a few important things to consider when in a Microsoft Teams live event is that attendees who do not sign in will appear as anonymous in the event and in your event report. Microsoft Teams lacks a registration process, so you will have to come up with a workaround for signing up users to receive that live event link securely. It's also difficult to multitask while you're in a live event, and it can be distracting with notifications and other pop-ups. So you want to try to eliminate as many distractions as you can so you can focus on the presentation content. A few ways to do that that we recommend are load your content onto a second monitor, being able to bounce between the two. Don't share your screen specifically, share that specific file or program. It can be difficult to swap between presentation content, so try keeping as few programs open as possible. And it's worth noting that live captioning has to be turned on individually for that user attending during the event. So live events are fairly new, which means Microsoft is still going to be rolling out new features. You can see which planned features and their status updates online. Jesse will post a link in a chat to this forum. And lastly, there are limitations to what you can do. And until Microsoft launches these highly requested features like adding opening presentation slides, showing multiple speakers at once, or adding a live polling feature, we can use a few alternatives to work around these until those are confirmed. Also, as a note, you want to be aware of how many users are attending because your bandwidth needs will need to match that in order to maintain a quality stream. So before we get into one of the alternatives that we used, here are a few of the confirmed updates Microsoft is currently developing. So real-time data to have audience metrics and stream performance data for troubleshooting any technical issues that can arise during the event. Live voting and polling to add the user experience, while also giving another way to interact with the audience and gain some immediate feedback or data. And finally, being able to present from an iPad and sharing desktop audio from Mac products. This is Microsoft's way of expanding the accessibility of live events to all operating systems and devices, demonstrating a goal to share content from any device. So now that we covered what to consider, what to expect, here's what we use to mitigate some of these issues. So OBS Studio, for a bit of background, it's free open source software that is used for recording and live streaming. It was released around 2012 and is still supported and receiving updates for new features, which can be used on any major streaming platform such as Microsoft Stream, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And so a bit about why we chose OBS was because we want to get a full suite of tools with one piece of software, have a clean and easy to use interface with good documentation, along with community support, allowing us to get set up quickly and being able to mitigate some of the team's limited capabilities and customizing an event to make it more of a studio production. So the image you see right now is an example of a simple opening scene that can be added directly as an input into the camera feed, also known as a virtual camera. So this would essentially be my webcam feed that would be displayed. So going over some of the other OBS features we liked, the ability to create customized scenes. So a scene is what you're showing at a given time, and this lets you create a presentation within your event by giving you more control over the content you want to share. So for example, in the image here, you'll see two windows, a larger one and a smaller one, with the larger one having a PowerPoint presentation and a webcam view, and then the smaller one just being the PowerPoint presentation by itself. The larger one with the webcam view is what is going to be going out towards the audience. And that smaller PowerPoint window is going to be how you interact with the presentation from a different source. So you won't be interacting with it on the same screen. This is something that Teams currently doesn't have because this allows for sharing our content and our camera, which is a nice feature to have more audience engagement. So the ability to create and customize transitions as well. So a transition is just the action of going in between your screens and your files. And you can have an infinite amount of scenes where you have transitions to. So having this within a presentation kind of makes a smoother transition from going to a document to a presentation, or just going back to your webcam. And a subtle but powerful feature is audio mixing and filtering, giving us fine-tuned control of things like lighting and video playback. So you're able to modify every source, giving it its own filtering properties or custom settings. Also, having a wide array of sources to choose from, such as audio, video, a specific window, a specific browser, PowerPoint, or any other file, with the flexibility to customize each one differently, gives us a lot of options when creating scenes, leaving us with a studio quality production without the need for a large investment in time and money to get up to date with the software. So some other features that OBS has are studio mode, which you'll see is displayed in the above image. This lets us see what is live on the right and prepare our next scene on the left to allow presenters to customize any last minute details. So right now, Teams has the ability to see what is live and what's in the queue when sharing content for the event, but it's limited to the producer. So this kind of sets up each presenter to get ready to share out their content individually. OBS Studio also has really intuitive controls. You can see that there are a lot of options in the bottom menus there. And for myself, having limited experience with streaming software, it looked like a lot at first, but once you start actually playing around, things work how you would expect them to, and you're able to get up and running pretty quickly. And then the last reason why we liked OBS is the UI itself is great. It's modular. You can move everything around to make the space yours. You can be comfortable with how you work and have your most productive setup. So this kind of covers the list of OBS Studio features. So we will go back to Jeremiah to begin the Q&A.
Thank you, Tyler. So like Tyler said, what we'd like to do next is transition into any questions. Again, we do envision this being collaborative. So if there are any questions from the moderator standpoint, Jesse, maybe you could highlight those. If not, we'll pause a few seconds and see if anybody does have any questions at this point. If you want to raise your hand, Jesse can unmute you, the producers can unmute you, you can ask a question, or you could put it into the chat window. So with that, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Jesse. Any questions, Jesse? Would each presenter run OBS? Tyler, do you want to take that question from Mike?
So the best way to handle it is each presenter runs OBS, and then from there, they're able to set up their own scenes. So for example, having a PowerPoint presentation and a webcam view at the same time, obviously you can't do that in Teams, but with OBS, you're able to create a scene like that where it's the overlay of the camera on top of PowerPoint like I had in the image. You can create the opening scene. And then I don't recommend this to focus on one person having the presentation. This way each person has individual control and they can kind of manage the transitions in between different presenters a lot nicer.
Thank you for that, Tyler. Jesse, any other questions?
Yeah, we have another question here. What are some of the registration processes that you recommend using since Teams doesn't have one? Mercy, maybe you can take that one on.
Sure. Yeah, so at Imaginet, we use HubSpot. It's a really great marketing automation tool where you can create the sign up form, landing pages, a call to action button, as well as reminder emails. Another option is Eventbrite. It's been around for several years. It's free and super easy to use. You can also export the attendee reports, send reminder emails. It's a great addition if you're doing any public events.
Great. Another question in here. Is real-time translation via subtitles an option for attendees in different language regions?
Who wants to take that one? I know we're all ready to answer. So that one.
Yeah, I could take that. So when you're setting up the live event, you can set up different translations. When we set up live captioning here, you'll have to set that up at the beginning. But when you turn on live captioning, it should be changed to the language that the audience prefers.
And Mercy, that's a great tip, right? That's something that we had to identify during, like Mercy said, test, plan, right? It's hard to account for every scenario, but we do encourage you to identify that as some of your initial requirements for hosting and providing this type of event. So that is a great question. What languages do you want to target? Make sure you configure that up front. And again, it shows the value, right, that the producers play in promoting this type of live broadcast, right? There's more to it than just Jeremiah up here rambling. And that's why we really wanted to highlight all of the functionality, support, and capabilities that are available to you as a producer and part of the broadcaster. Jesse, with that, do we have any other questions?
Yeah, we have another one here. It's a bit of a follow-up to the Eventbrite question. When sending an attendee link, is it restricted to that individual? What happens if it's forwarded to other people? And how can you restrict who are the real attendees?
I could take that question again. So earlier I showed a slide of creating the live event. Once it's been created, you'll get a get attendee link that's specific to people who will actually be attendees rather than the team who's organizing the event, like the producers, presenters, etc. It's not restricted to just one person. So whatever the link is, it's just one link that anyone can have access to. It also depends on how you've set up the event, if it's just for specific people and groups in your organization, to the entire organization, or to the public. Did I miss anything else in that question, Jesse?
No, I believe that covers it. Mike is just pointing out as well that there is a closed caption button that needs to be clicked to enable the subtitles, and a gear button. In the gear button, you can set your language there.
Yeah, thank you for those, Mike. Yeah, awesome. Okay. We do want to be respectful to everybody's time. We do appreciate you if you're in the Central Time Zone taking your lunch break to engage with us in this opportunity. If there aren't any more questions here in a couple minutes, we're going to start to transition out. Again, we do want to be respectful to you and your time, but like we said, this will be delivered to you, so there will be some post-event actions that Mercy, myself, and the team will be executing, so you'll have ways to contact us. If there are any questions that you immediately drop and you think of, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here to support you. Our goal, like to the point that we just got from Mike, is to build community, right? We want to build community. We want to build relationships. So no questions too off the wall. If there's something that we maybe stated that you don't agree with or want some clarification, some discussion, please, right? We're a shop that follows continuous improvement. So we're always looking for ways to improve and have conversation and discussion. And with that, we're going to start to transition into our post-event type of activities. And that's first priority will be highlighting our next live event. So today was, how do you plan for this as you being the presenter, like Tyler was laying out. So what we want to do is continue in our series now of how to take advantage of teams, right? So kind of switching lanes a little bit here. Now, how do we as a team work together, whether we're planning to deliver an event, a project, a product launch, like Mercy said, new insurance benefits, a renovation to office, whatever that event might be for you and your organization, there's going to be task management and project management, approvals, communication, statuses that have to happen. Our next event is going to focus on how to leverage Teams as that single application to not only deliver the event, but how to plan, track tasks, and then ultimately deliver. We're always open to feedback, like we said. So any feedback you have, we are a shop that does believe in continuous improvement, like we said. So any feedback, not too big, not too small, please don't hesitate to share that with us. Again, we've tried to post a lot of links within the chat and the Q&A here, but if you do have any other questions or want to read any more of our marketing materials, you can visit our website at imaginet.com/insights. And of course, we're all over the social media platforms. Haven't talked the team into TikTok yet, but we are on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. So hopefully you'll be able to see us and the team doing some pretty sweet dances on TikTok here pretty soon if Mercy can figure out how to align our marketing strategy with that platform. And again, as a takeaway, right, not just a sales presentation here, we do want to offer you some type of compensation and incentive for your award. So like we said, Imaginet has been around for 22 years. We have a strong passion in the Office 365 stack in regards to, like we said, not just business process improvement, collaboration, but more promoting a sense of community and culture right now at this time that we're living through, right? Where everybody's virtual, everybody's remote. In our opinion, we feel community and that sense of culture is needed now more than ever. And we have the tools and the platforms and the cloud solutions available to us with the proper engagement, definition of requirements, and then the skills that our team at Imaginet possesses to build you a custom solution. We feel that we can really help you to ingrain that sense of community and culture within you and your organization. To support that, Mercy and the team from the marketing side of the house are offering a 1-hour free consultation with a member from my team. Some of the things that these are used for can be a 2-day quick start on Teams, whether you're planning a live event, migration of content from a file share, maybe as Slack into Teams, right? But we also focus on governance and sustainability, right? How do I leverage these tools that are very rapidly available to me, right? Such as the Zoom calls, those type of things, right? How do we launch these softwares up with very little barrier, but also ensure that we're following the proper security and governance guidelines, that we're not putting ourselves or our organization at some type of security risk. And then we focus a lot on what we call user adoption, right? This is a fancy word for what used to be training. But we don't feel training, right, kind of conveys the right type of message that we're trying to communicate. Training, right, conjures up perceptions and senses of, I'm going to watch this video, I'm going to read through this slide deck, kind of next finish, and then done. We take a very hands-on approach when it comes to coaching and user adoption, right? We like to deliver in an iterative fashion that really brings in our business partners into the project lifecycle. We want to be as relative and engaging as possible through the delivery of a project. And ultimately, we provide solutions for full implementation of any type of Microsoft 365 solution, as well as custom application development, and like we talked about, data analytics. So if you have any questions in regards to the 1-hour free consultation, what next steps might be, any questions about the live event or planning for your next live event, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here at Imaginet. We look forward to the opportunity to engage with you. And like we said, further that relationship and that sense of community within the Microsoft Partner Network. So with that, we do thank you for your time today. Again, there will be some follow-up activities from the team coming out, but we do want to be sensitive to your time, and we thank you for your time today and look forward to the opportunity to follow up with you in the future. Thank y'all. Have a great afternoon.